My mother would always say, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself.
Why? What does it give you?
That lit a fire in me that still to this day has not gone out one single bit. We're talking $20, $30, $50,000 deals that were coming into these 17-year-old friends of ours just via email.
Do you think there would have been a different Glewee or a different Christian Brown if you would have been 40 now? Welcome, listeners. I'm Seb Wichmann, your host of the DoGood Insider, where we dive deep into raw and meaningful conversations with visionary founders and CEOs who see beyond profit, elevating the lives of employees and vendors and the planet we call home. Today's guest, I'm joined by Christian Brown, the co-founder and CMO of Glewee, who's already made the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. From starting his entrepreneurial journey at age 15 to scaling a revolutionary influencer marketing platform during COVID-19, Christian's stories embodies ambition and innovation. He and his team of Gen Z innovators transformed Glewee from sticky note ideas into a game-changing platform that's reshaping how brands and creators collaborate. Today, we will dive deep into the challenges of building a remote-first culture, scaling operations while maintaining authenticity, and the delicate balance of leading a Gen Z workforce. Whether you're scaling your startup or navigating the complexity of modern leadership, Christian's insights on building high-performing teams and maintaining cultural integrity during rapid growth will provide valuable lessons for founders and CEOs alike. Christian, welcome. How are you?
Seb, thank you so much. That was a fantastic introduction. I appreciate it.
So, Christian, the reason really why we initially talked, why I was really keen to invite you is because you're 26 right now. You have made the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. And what really struck me, Christian, was in such a young age, your kind of almost like seniority around leadership, how you lead your teams, your principles, how you conduct life. It is really remarkable how you have been able to shape an ability to lead your teams at Glewee at a point or in a way that I don't see seasoned and experienced CEOs or founders or CMOs have. So talk us through a little bit, where does it come from? Talk us through the upbringing, talk us anything through that you want to talk us through, I guess, to get a little bit of an insight of how you operate.
Yeah. So I think when we think about it, right, and just for all listeners, Glewee as a platform, as a business, as an entity, what we do is we connect brands and influencers through our technology platforms. And so in order to do so, we have two sides of our market. We have our brands, we have our influencers. When we think historically speaking, both myself and our other founder, Dylan, we met in Los Angeles many, many years ago when we were both in the high school to uni college times and really transitioning through our adolescent teens into early adulthood. Both of us were running different startups, different businesses at the time, primarily ecom based. And we were just very much around the, not upbringing, but the rise of social media in the very early days, post YouTube, more in that initial Instagram era. And I think that in order for us to get there, right, that is an entire country away from where I come from. Where I grew up is Massachusetts in the Northeast region of the US. Typical Four Seasons, smallish town, very beautiful story of growing up out of the movies, right? Where you ride your bikes through town and everyone goes to the football games in the high school and you wear the varsity jackets, all that beautiful stuff. And so during my earliest days, I grew up as an only child. So I grew up with just my mother and I was very much inspired by the whole concept of the entrepreneurial experience and what it takes to get there. And I think that in my earlier days, when I would spend, oodles and oodles of time online, I would just look up all the best founders, all the best writers, all the best leaders, read as much content that I could on them. And I was really okay, look, there's, everywhere around me, there are products. Every one of these products and services was created by a people or a team, and it was built up to find, I didn't know product market fit at the time. And then I later learned that. but they found product market fit. They created something, a product or a service, and it's out in the world. And there's real users, there's real consumers, there's real individuals that are utilizing that innovation, that experience, that idea that came to life. And I was just so inspired by that. And in my earlier days, my mother would always say, you know, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And I'd be like, oh, can I have help with this? Can I have help with this? She's always like, oh, well, if you want to do it, you have to do it yourself. And I think that I really picked up that mentality, right? Like definitely throughout my high school years, I was like class president, all that jazz, like was trying to excel in any and every space that I could, academically, sports, friends, culturally, all that. And I think that like this idea and this ambition of like, okay, go get it, go do it, right? Bring it to life, do it yourself, do it with your friends, do it in like a community that you're building yourself. Like that lit a fire in me that like still to this day has not gone out one single bit. And I think like that whole idea really just evolved and grew over time, whether it was through uni and we were building different platforms or e-com brands or different event companies that we pitched up. But like all of that, like those exact moments of like, wow, we're going to do something, we're going to build something, we're going to make it big and we're going to be dedicated to it. That's been really with me from the earlier days. And I think that I'm able to translate that a lot to what we do today. And, you know, that's the fire and the spark in me that never goes out.
Man, I love that. It is. Do you think that this is something that your mom instilled in you, or do you think that's just where you're born with this kind of, I guess it's curiosity for you, or is it kind of this piece around striving for excellence? Like where does this come from, do you think?
So I definitely think that it helps that I'm an only child, right? Because a lot of times you hear like people with big families and stuff, they're like, oh, you know, everyone loves it or they hate it. It's kind of binary. And then only children are kind of the opposite side. You're either like extremely extroverted or you're introverted. I think I had a perfect amount of extroversion growing up where I think that I was just so inspired by people and so inspired by leaders, right? When I think about my family and those around me and those that raised me, like those are the first leaders in my life. I was able to look at them and really mimic behavior off of them, learn how to have manners and how to have drive and how to really excel in any and every space because I was able to just like watch and study from them. Same goes for all my professors, all my teachers, everyone I've learned from academically. I think that the exposure to them and that cohort of people over time, it just really positioned me to see them on a pedestal and really appreciate who they are as people, learn from them, and really study how they became who they are in their own leadership position. Because I look at everyone as a leader in their own way, right? We're all leading our own lives. Every day we wake up, okay, what are you going to do today? What are you going to eat today? How are you going to be the most productive? Like you as an individual have to lead that. And I think that when I saw great leaders, I was able to really just be so inspired by them. So that mixed with the fact that I had a lot of free time and there was a lot of cold moments in Massachusetts growing up, I spent an immense amount of time online. And I think that the internet, social media, that big boom actually opened up the door to so many more leaders because I wasn't just able to access those around me. I was able to access the entirety of the world online. And I really took that. Like I spent hours and hours and hundreds of hours just reading from some of the greats growing up and people that inspired me any and every way, looking at their past work, looking at their entire catalog of experiences and just being like, wow, okay, look, like life's out there. There's so much to do. You have to build this life for yourself. And you have to build it great and beautiful and fun and have the best time possible, but also strive for greatness in all areas. So I think that it derives from that, but it's evolved so much over time.
We have just spoken just before we started recording here that there is a bit of an age gap between the both of us. I think it's close to 20 years or so. Do you think that the way you grew up in Gen Z, 26 right now, do you think there would have been a different Glewee or a different Christian Brown if you would have been 40 now? Like, is this kind of, because you grew up with the whole thing, internet and just in full bloom, right?
Yeah. So Seb, this is a crazy answer to this. Like it is such a hard, definitive yes. I would be entirely different. And I think about, there's so many paradoxes out there that speak on this, but like even butterfly effect and all that. But like, I think about my life now and who I am. Right. And what it means to be me, my core values, my interests, a lot of the traits that encompass the idea of me. And I think that so many of them derive from social media. And so like I say it with pure confidence, like I am like a result of the social media generation. Like the way in which I've been able to live and work and experience life basically all over the world over the past like 8 years or so, studying in Barcelona, going to school in Chicago, spending a lot of time in New York, LA, Miami, like all over the place. And I think that I was able to do that because the internet was at my fingertips, not only to create brands online and generate income and revenue for myself, which I was able to reinvest in, a plethora of areas like living and travel and all that, but also being able to spend my time online meeting people, and not necessarily just networking. I mean, like truly meeting people. Some of my favorite people in the entire world, I met online. Some of the best moments of my entire life came from people that I met online, or just very small, quick, like moments where someone's like, hey, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And I've just been like, yes. I might not even know them, but I've said yes. And, I've gone and been with full confidence and been exposed to so much more in this life than I ever would have thought would have happened. And I thank it all to social media and just the exposure that it's given myself, my friends, people like us, and people that have really like taken hold of it and ran their life with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Talk me through this kind of sentence that you just shared with us when you, maybe I recall it incorrectly, but when you want to get something right, you have to do it yourself. Is that what you?
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah. So talk like, what does it mean to you? And also like in particular, what does this practically mean to your journey as an entrepreneur? Like give us some examples of that.
Yeah.
Beautiful sentence.
So some of the earliest examples were, I was building this like large project actually for my business class in high school. And I kept asking my mom for a ton of help. She would always say, and she said it when I was younger, and she'd repeat it over and over again throughout the years. But if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And as I got to a point where in high school, I had a brand, an online brand, we had like tons and tons of clothes, sneakers, tons of products, screen printed, embroidered, everything. And we would run it all out of the basement of my house. And as I started to hire up some of my friends, I'd get a little frustrated. I'm like, why is everyone not, why are people not looking at this exactly how I'm looking at it? Or like, why is someone not doing this exactly like how I did it? And it was like, wait a second, because if I want it to be done exactly how I want it, like I have to do it. Right. And then from that, I really started to learn that as you're growing and working with people, the idea of learning and teaching became like so important to that process. Because if I think about something or I want something done a specific way and someone else thinks otherwise, of course, right? Because we're all human beings. That's like the nature of thought. But if you can teach someone in a simple way, hey, it should be done like this. Here are the correct steps to get there. Now people can follow it and they can get it done that way. But I think to expect others to just be able to see a vision or see a thought or see an end goal and a final product and be able to know exactly how like the mind thinks to get there, to think that everyone thinks the same way is incorrect in my opinion. And so, yeah, I mean, like if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself concept. It applies to so many things. And I think there's so much of this world where you can rely on others and you can put trust and faith in others. But if you really want to have that like innate drive and get up in the morning and like have the best day possible, reach your goals, set the best goals and actually like get there, I think you have to really like charter your path and your life out by yourself. And really like you are the one that has to do it. And so I think it applies to so many areas in life. And I find it to be a beautiful quote. And, anytime that I think to myself, oh, should I rely on so-and-so to do something? And then it doesn't get done exactly to my expectations. I say, well, if you wanted it done right, you would have done it yourself. And so after enough failures or enough times where it was not done correctly, I just started saying, I'm just going to do a bunch of things myself in life. And they're going to be done in my control. And if I don't get them done right, you know who that falls on is me.
Yeah. I would love to dive more deeper into, and we will get there. Talk us a little bit through Glewee as well. Like, who is your audience? What are you guys up to? Talk us through Glewee a little bit.
Yeah. So like I mentioned a little earlier, Glewee is a influencer marketing platform. We are an end-to-end influencer marketing platform. We have two sides of what is our tech marketplace. We have brands and influencers. So on one side of the coin, to build a marketplace, as we know, two sides, the influencers themselves, we look for USA-based influencers that excel in both Instagram and TikTok, and then secondarily, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, but true content creators that have past brand deal experience, that have grown a substantial following. We have over 10,000 influencers on our platform, ranging from 10,000 to 10 million followers. So people that are definitely in this space, or those that are up and coming in this space that are looking to work with more brands. So they come into our platform on the iOS side, they authenticate their accounts to prove that they do own those socials. We pull a serious amount of data from the socials. So we really get to build out a true profile and portfolio data-wise. And then the influencers, they submit their content, their past brand deal experience, and then that together builds out their portfolio. And so all the influencers live within our ecosystem and they can access Glewee on the iOS app. And then on the other side of the marketplace is the brand side. So think e-com brands, SMB, so anywhere from 500K to about 10 million annual revenue is really our sweet spot in the health and wellness space, the fitness space, consumer packaged goods space, fashion, jewelry, beauty. Those are the main industries. And brands that are looking to find influencers to really scale their brand on social. So whether you're looking for brand awareness, whether you're looking for influencers to be the new face of the brand on social, whether you're looking to drive sales and promote maybe your TikTok shop or your Amazon links, or whether you just want influencers and content creators to make that new age, new era content for the brand to maybe run in ads or to put on their website or to use in their marketing material. All of that can happen seamlessly through our platform. And we've been working on this for the past 3.5 years, and we have many, many years to go. And we have a fantastic future ahead of us as we expand into areas like affiliate marketing, ROI tracking, expansions in both our creator network and our brand side, expanding into working with agencies and talent managers. So, we're really looking at the creator economy, which by 2017, Goldman Sachs says could be up to a $250 billion industry. So we're looking at that as a whole, and we're understanding where the gaps are and where we can really fit in to kind of create a moat for ourselves as that all-in-one, ever-encompassing influencer marketing platform that will evolve into far many more things in the coming years.
How did you start up? Did you start up on a napkin? Did you look at competition? Talk us through a little bit the journey of Glewee.
So one of my best friends, Dylan, who I met through Instagram, and through when I was running my brand in high school, I met a few kids on Instagram. And I was spending a lot of time in LA working with them, literally just taking photos, using and working with them and like their whole network to be kind of brand advocates for my brand, right? Doing true influencer marketing back in the day. This is like 2015 or so. And so, wow, now that I say it's 10 years ago. Wow. So during that time, one of my friends was living with another friend who then became really good friend of mine, Dylan. And one day he said to me, he's like, we do a lot of like influencer deals. We were on the management side. We were really kind of like helping with the business side of some pretty large deals. We're talking like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 deals that were coming into these 17-year-old friends of ours just via email. And so he said to me, he's like, there's some technological scale to this, right? Like what if there was an app for this and a platform where like we could take this off of email? I was like, oh my God, like imagine that, right? And then a couple months go by, and then COVID started, and I called that house in LA, and I said to my buddies, I'm like, hey, is this, because my uni shut down that day. So, hey, is this, happening there too? Like no one knew what was going on. And they said, yeah, we're all going to get out of here ASAP because there's basically like alarms and stuff. And so Dylan said, he's like, hey, I'm going to go down to Florida and hang out there for a little bit. Do you want to come? And I said, yeah, I'll be there in the morning. And so I literally got the next flight out in the morning. I went down there and he said, hey, remember we were talking about that app idea where we can get that whole influencer marketing off of email and into a direct platform? I'm like, of course. He said, well, we have nothing to do. I looked at him, I said, you're right. We do have quite some time here. He says, let's make it.
Right.
And so, we had started from that moment on, and he had done a great job on the foundation of it. We built the business plan up. We used a lot of frameworks that, we learned in like our high school business classes. I was able to leverage so much of the work material from my uni classes and any and every piece of documentation from my entrepreneurship classes. I just like printed it all out. I'm like, well, I can still log into my school account. Let's just leverage this stuff. So we really started there, and within 12 months or so, we got our original round of investment. And then within the following 6 months after that is when we started building the team. And we went for a two-prong approach, which was really led by some of our advisors, where we wanted to hire up a Gen Z portion of the team that would really lead like the front of Glewee, really be the influencer marketing leg of it and really be the face of that. And then we also needed some senior members around us. And so we did exactly that. We kind of went for senior leadership that would allow us to learn from them, and they would bring us up, right? And Dylan and I were 22 and 21 at the time. And then also we were really bringing on a lot of friends of ours, like Gen Z creators and people that were, we knew from college or we just knew from the space. And we were giving friends of ours their first job. And this was our first job too, right? We had never really had a paycheck or, anything like that. So we were really starting our first job in our career all together under the Glewee ecosystem that was being built. And then we were able to really, grow that up with the senior leadership and the Gen Z side. And then, we sat right in the middle, and it was just like a 360-degree learning experience every moment of every day.
If you go back, COVID-19, university shut down, was that for you, like in retrospect, kind of an opportunistic moment where you said, look, let's just take it by the throat and run with it? Or did it just fall into your laps because you really didn't have anything to do? Or are there any lessons taught for you about this opportunistic mindset?
Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, I must say that time, historically speaking, horrible time, right? Because of everything that happened and the international outbreak and everything. But when I look at it, back in time, I think that, like we talked about earlier, that idea of like always having that innate drive and want to do good and be the best possible. I think that the only other element to that is necessary to be great is true time. And one thing that gave us, myself, Dylan, a lot of people that I know, it gave us a lot of time, and it gave us time without distraction. And true time without distraction mixed with that drive gives you a lot of time to ideate.
Lethal, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, especially at that, 22-year-old moment of like, well, we need to like,
let's go.
But the way we looked at it is, and one of my best friends and my roommate for many years during uni, he said to me towards the end of school, right before COVID, he said, what's really funny? I'll never forget this moment. I said, what? He says, every job we've ever had, we've created for ourselves. He's an incredibly entrepreneurial friend named Trey, runs an incredible agency now. And that I'll never forget that moment in my life, because like that moment then and there, it really solidified it. Like we had gotten, I say all that far, but like we paid for our school and our uni and our living and everything. We paid for all that off of our ideas and off of our dedication and commitment. And we were only going to keep going further and better and up to the right. And, it gave us time to do that. And we were at a pivotal moment in life where we couldn't go to corporate right away. I couldn't just go use my advertising university degree and go work for Leo Burnett or some ad agency that I always dreamt of working at, because they were shut down. And so we were like, okay, we need to build something here. Like we need to build the next part of our life. And so we did it. We did exactly that. And, I sit here nearly 4 years later, in our office and, surrounded by an amazing team and a great product and 1,000,001 memories and 5,000,001 learning experiences from the past few years that have shaped me into the person I've become.
That's incredible. There's so many parallels. I grew up with my dad. I actually started advertising design myself, and I never actually worked in this field. And then straight away as well, transition into entrepreneurship, not knowing anything about it, right? So great to hear your stories, man. Really appreciate you opening up to that. Talk us through what are some of those leadership principles? And by the way, I hope I hope your mom is part of your financial contribution, because it seems like she had a big portion of the reason why you became successful. So well done to your mom. She seems to be an incredible woman.
Yes, she is amazing.
Talk us through.
I love you, Mom.
Talk us through maybe even, as an extension to what your mom kind of imparted upon you, other leadership principles. What are some of those principles that that explains how you approach Glewee, that you apply, day to day, that where there's some practicality behind? We spoke about an amazing story about Halloween, right? That we both could relate to.
Yes.
Where, just for the viewers, it wasn't in the same call, it was respective different companies, but we share this commonality where we both, I believe, got dressed up. I literally had bananas hanging off my cap and a pineapple just reaching to the top, and kind of us meeting with our teams, right? Mm-hmm. Why did you get dressed up? Like, what kind of, there's certainly cultural values you're trying to impart upon your team. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that growing up as an only child, right, I always wanted to be a part of something. Like, I always had this drive to be a part of community, a part of friend groups, a part of these moments shared with people, with others, with groups, right? And so I had always, I'll never forget being younger and just imagining what it was like to work on a team, do work on a team, not necessarily play sports or anything, but I was always like, oh my God, to be able to do this, right? To do all this work that I'm doing, but around others. I just found so much fascination with that. And then when we were able to bring it to life, I think that we were able to really, I looked at it and I said, okay, this is really a work friend group, right? And so in order to run a good friend group, right, you have to plan things, you have to communicate, there needs to be people that are taking the leadership position. Some good friend groups have the accountant, right? And so when we built the team at work, it was really okay, we are really, and we all became best friends. And so it's we need to all work together to be the best that we can. And I think there needs to be a culture there. And so whether it was our, monthly or quarterly all hands meetings, or whether it was our stand-ups that we would do, or breaking it up into different departments and being able to have different department time. And this is mainly remotely too. So being able to have those moments shared with teams, it's kind of we were able to make these inside jokes, and we were able to be hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to all work towards this project, and then go share it with the whole company. And a lot of those moments that I reflect back upon, those are the best moments of the entirety of, my career thus far, is being able to not only build teams, but to empower them too. And I think that it takes a good leader and someone that's really dedicated to the interpersonal relationships amongst the teams to really bring that to life. And having constant communication with the team, right? Everyone always knows I'm available 24 hours a day. My response time is 32 seconds, because I want to always be there for someone. Even if I don't have the exact answer, I'm going to know someone that does. And I think that goes really a long way in life, just because it's that idea of the extroversion and the drive kind of mixed together, because it's not that I want to be great, it's that I want us to be great. And I think there's so much value in the we idea, because nothing we've done to date is any one person's accomplishment, right? This is a team effort. Our past employees, our current employees, our future team members, this is a we thing all the way through, right? We are all working as a team. And I think being able to communicate that internally and really build that ship that people are on, that people are really actually hyped to be on, there's so much value in that. And early on, we were able to see, we would be working 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Most days of the week. And everyone, the whole entire company, nothing would slow down. Maybe people would stop to eat. And this was not a requirement, right? This was just because we were in those early build phases, and we were just over the moon loving it, obsessed, right? And I think that idea, being people say drunk on love, but being truly obsessed with something that you're very passionate about, I think there's almost no better feeling than that. And being able to get others in on that thought and truly banding behind it is so special. And I think that's what great leaders can do in teams. And I must say, I say great leaders, and I say this, I don't really have experience in other teams of any sorts, or large companies at all. So I've just kind of been trying to chart and pave this road along the way, and learn from if something didn't work right, okay, well, I need to analyze that, learn from that, really decompress and understand what was the root cause of that. And just in my future thinking states, just try to avoid that next time around. Yeah.
Again, going back to, I mean, hate going back to your age, right? When I was 26, I think I just left Germany, going to Australia, traveling, not being able to speak the language, so to speak, totally caught up in life, not having no direction. And while you're thriving and you're doing all these things. So, that is awesome. Now, to me, what's so impressive with you is that it can't just be you having read a lot, right? We all do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, talk us through this this Christian round reflection and observation and learning and kind of growing through mistakes you made.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, mistakes is a great one, right? Because like I have made my fair share of them. I think a lot of my earliest lessons, many of my best friends I grew up with, they would hoot, holler, and laugh when I start talking about mistakes. But like a lot of just like the early days of just life and learning, I think came with a lot of things of like, oh, I thought this was a really good idea. I'll tell you something fun, Seb. One time, I thought that life was just like the movies, and there was a very large snowbank about 7 feet tall. And I thought that if you drive your car really fast into the snowbank, when I was 16, I had just got my license, that you would, like the movies, the snow would poof around the car and you would fly right through it. And so I pitched this idea as I initiated stepping on the gas, and my best friend, who's still my best friend, he looked at me and said, "What are we doing?" And I said, "It's just like the movies, Seamus, hold on." And we drove straight ahead into the snowbank. I will tell you.
What's a snowbank? Like, what do you?
I'm sorry.
That?
It's like, imagine a lot of snow, right? Snow, like multiple feet of snow come down, and then the plows come, and the plows have to move the snow to the left or right. And then once it's once the snow is on the left and right, they then have to find a place to compact it. So instead of it being like 3 feet of snow everywhere, there will be one large portion of the snow, which is called a snow bank, and it's about 12 feet tall. So like multiple meters tall, and it's just all of the snow from the area. So I drove as fast as I could.
Compacted snow, right?
I mean, it is, but in the movies, it's not. Yes.
Let's talk me through it. So what's been?
Yes. Okay. So we drove as fast as we could, and luckily the snow had kind of created like a ramp, and so we drove my car up and into the snowbank, and it was elevated multiple feet above the street level, and we were stuck. My best friend looked at me, he said, "I told you so," and I got out of there, and
so
we had to call
did you just get stuck like 12 feet?
No, kind of angled, about like 40 degrees angled, all four wheels off the ground and in the snow, and like some of the front of the car, just like, there's snow everywhere, right? So we step out and we kind of climb down, imagine like a mini mountain. And, so we did call the local police, because on the side of their car, it does say to protect and serve. And so I called them. I said, "Hey guys, I quite frankly need some serving right now. I need you to bring me a shovel, to get my car out of here." And so they came. And this is where the story gets good, is I was standing there with my hands on my hips in my jacket. And I said, "Officer, like, we thought it was like the movies. We thought we could drive right through it." My best friend reaches back like a baseball swing. He smacks me in the shoulder. I'm like, "Oh, what?" And he goes, "This is not a we thing." And I said, whoa. He said, "That was a you idea." And still to this day, if I am with said best friend, Seamus, and I screw anything up, I said, "Me and Shane, we were doing this or we were doing that." He'll always say, "It's a you thing." And I think that, I will, now that I've gotten older, I'll take blame and acknowledgement for a lot of that stuff. But I think that came with learning too, where like, who I've become and everything that I will continue to become, it is a self-reflection of that like younger version of me. And I think that I was always ambitious. I always had drive. I always wanted to meet new people. I always wanted to see new things. And I always knew that like, there was a way to do so, right? I knew early on I didn't have to get like a cheap paying job in my small town, and that was going to be it. And, the ceiling was there. I always knew that the ceiling was much higher, and I knew the world was much bigger, and I knew there was way more people out there than the 356 people in my high school class. And I knew that like the only way that I could experience that and see that was through my own hard work. And I think that at scale, that exact same sentiment still stands. And I think that, when I see something and I want to go do something, I just fit it into my schedule. Like, I don't really think twice. There's literally like nothing stopping me, nothing stopping anyone around me. And it's not in like this big, like, oh, we're like a bulldozer and, we're a wrecking ball type way. It's more just like the world is your oyster. And I think that the map is really big. And I think opportunity awaits in every nook and cranny. you just have to be looking for it, and you have to be persistent, and you have to be out striving for it. And even it goes back to work, right? Like when we go to events, I've been at so many events in the last, couple months, and like I walk in somewhere and I analyze the room, and, going back to our platform, right? We have our brands and our influencers, and I just analyze and take a mental screenshot of like, okay, this group of people I can tell are probably like influencers. This group of people work in business, probably in branding. And so, I just go out and I collect as many phone numbers as possible. And I just say to them like, hey, I'd love to tell you more about our platform and everything we do. And I just do these informational meetings like all the time, whenever I have a free minute, because like I truly believe the more that we can talk and meet and exchange information with one another, the more that I can ingrain in someone's mind. Like when you think about influencer marketing, we want you to think about Glewee, and we want you to think about our team and our mission and who we are and what we're doing. And, it comes all the way around. It's like people call us all the time. Like, hey, remember we met 6 months ago? Like we really have a big influencer program that we need to launch, and you guys are the people, right? And so we're continuing to build and grow that. But it all really comes from like that same version of me and us that, we were when we were younger, just wanting to see and do more and do good and be better. And I think it's just at scale now. Everything is more at scale.
Who knows where you guys are going to go? So it's so exciting to follow you. Let's talk communities. You mentioned numerous times, and Glewee obviously regarding bringing brands and people, influencers together. You mentioned a few times that you have a huge focus on community. I want to contrast this a little bit with my life. I see myself, and I've seen myself for so long as a lone wolf, not kind of fitting in, trying to walk the path least traveled, being the black sheep in the world, not just in my family per se. I love my family and I'm a big part of it, but still different. We are thinking, we think different, right? We act different. We don't do the things the way other people usually do them. Hence, entrepreneurship is usually the ones that catches our eyes, right?
Right.
If you had to teach me, and I hope that listeners also can relate to my story of not being understood and kind of being the pioneer and kind of, walking the path least traveled. What is the value of community in context of entrepreneurship? Maybe your well-being in general, the success at large. Talk us through that a little bit.
So let me ask, community internally within our company or community as an external entity of life?
I would say talk through the general notion of how community helps you in your life to be the best version of yourself, whether or not that's a community as an entrepreneur in-house, extended network, family.
Yeah, honestly, I think that it is everything to me. So, and I'm speaking solely from personal experience here. I think community, friendship, interpersonal relationship, family, even those that you see on the street or you interact with one time, it means so much to me. I think that people mean so much to me. I'm so inspired by the world and by people. And I love, like, my ideal free time is spent somewhere that I get to meet as many people as possible and have as many small talk conversations as possible, right? Like, hence why I love going out, right? And I love anything that really is like dinner parties, or even going out to like a really dingy bar with some of my friends and then bringing new friends, or going to networking events, right? Like, the list really goes on, but it all relates to like the social element. And I think that being in social settings, whatever, if they're first, second, third spaces, if you are going out, if it's networking, whatever it is, the idea of making new friends that you share common interests with, to me, is probably like my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Like, it's my favorite feeling ever.
Like, why? What does it give you?
This sense of exploration, because like every single person, they have their own story, they have their own agenda, they have their own things they have to do every day, right? They have their own way of making money, they have their own job, they have their own family, and like all of those things combined make you you. And like, it sounds so corny, but when I get to go meet people that, I love, like, sometimes, I meet people for like 20 minutes and I'll say to them, like, you and I would be really, really good friends. Like, this could be a long-term relationship. And some of my like closest friends, I just met out at random things. And I'm like, hey, like, come meet my other friends, right? Come join my community. And I don't know. I'm also so extroverted.
You're curious. Is it curiosity for you, or is it just
yeah? Well, I think that my social battery is what drives me, right? Like the way that I have so much energy is because I'm constantly around people and I'm challenged when I'm with people, right? Because like I want to be active in conversation. I want to make myself known in the room. I want to meet as many people as possible. And I think that like while it drains most people's social battery, that to me is like that's my plug-in. So I think that I can channel that energy and those like emotions and laughs and good times I can have with others in that like just social community element. I can channel that to reflect in my work. And so like, there probably is some strong positive correlation around like how much I'm with other people, whether they're these amazing, great people that inspire me or whether they're brand new people that I find very interesting, and my work output. I think that I'm greatly inspired by others and by new interpersonal relationships. And it makes me so happy.
Yeah. And I really believe you. It's not that you do that because you're a CMO of Glewee. I mean, you're certainly in the right industry. You have found the right profession, right? I mean,
yes.
If there's one product that seems the best fit for you, it's probably Glewee. I don't know.
Yes. It very much is, which is very, very funny to say.
So cool. It is so cool.
Yeah.
Christian, thank you so much for,
I was going to say one last thought on that, Seb. I, for like 6 months when living in Barcelona, I would go out by myself a lot, and I was 20 or 21 at the time. I would go out by myself early in the night, and I would say to myself, like, this is a challenge, right? I'm going to go to an establishment, like a pub or something, where I know people my age will be. And at the end of the night, I'm going to leave with the most amount of friends in the room. And I would do it 5 nights a week. And I would then use those friends to start traveling all over Europe for a couple months and just staying with random people, like sleeping on their couches and just instilling trust in the most random people all over what seemed to be the world. And I think that like, that was a defining moment for myself, because I was like, you know what? Like, I don't just like doing this stuff. I love it. Like, I love meeting new people. I love learning new stories and sharing stories and being a part of the conversation. I love others. Like, I just, I'm so excited talking about it. Right. I hope you can sense that. And I think that reflects, greatly on who I am and even the company we've built and the way that we're all extroverted towards the world and towards our goals and all of it.
Christian, there has been an amazing conversation. Like it's totally fascinating to me. And I love the ability to meet people like yourself, simply via, virtual means and email, and you kind of suddenly get to build a relationship. I think, it's true to say that even just 5-6 years ago, that wasn't, the way it is right now, pre-COVID, right? So, really appreciate your time. I'm sure that our listeners have learned a lot. I certainly did. You are such an inspiring figure, and I love, and I will continue to, to watch Glewee, what's in store for you guys, the way you were brought up by your mom with the motto that if you want to get something done right, do it yourself, right? This piece around community, the strength, certainly, that's my journey right now to really, because it would totally exhaust me to do what you have done in Barcelona. I've lived in Madrid for 2 years. Y hablamos un poco español también. But it would totally exhaust me to do that, what you did. So, great lessons learned for me as well. And I'm sure our listeners can resonate as well.
Amazing.
So, Christian, thank you so much for your time. And
Seb,
I wish
thank you
a wonderful day.
so much. I very much appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.